And we're rolling. Welcome to the Greasy Cinema, where we like our popcorn greasy and we like our movies sleazy. I'm your greasy host, Clint. Join with me tonight, all the way from That Other Horror Podcast, are Nicole.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
Good.
And Canadian boy, Ryan. How's it going, man?
Going great.
Doing great. Doing great. That's wonderful. So I joined us together tonight for a very special reason. I wanted to talk about a movie from 2024. It is an independent film by the name of Screamwalkers. Um, Interesting story on this. I keep talking about this, and I hate to keep doing that, but I went to Gettysburg Creature Feature last year, and I go there pretty much every year because it's like 20 minutes away from my house. But I went there for a variety of reasons. And one of the happy accidents that happened while I was there is I got to get a screening of this particular movie, which, the way I understand it, was the first public viewing of the movie. And when I say that, it wasn't finished. Like it was polished enough to show it to an audience, but it didn't have like the official like finishing touches on it, like the music that they intended to use. Um, and I did hear that when I was talking to them, because like when you go to like a convention with indie filmmakers, they're very accessible, so you can just sit there and talk to them. And I found out that the edit of their film what was put together hastily at the very end to have something that they could show, and they put music in it that didn't actually belong to it. Like they borrowed music from other movies. So like they told me that some of the music they put in there was from Cujo, that they just borrowed it so they could have a soundtrack. So that's not the way it is now. I actually have an actual DVD copy of it now. I liked it so much I bought a DVD copy of it. But I was actually watching the commentary track on the DVD last night, which they joke throughout the commentary track when you're listening to it that no one listens to these. Well, I was listening to that, and what I found out was they did their final pickup shots 4 days before they showed it at Gettysburg Creature Feature. So it was like,
Hmm.
holy shit! Like I saw a really rough cut of this movie. That being said, I had a hell of a good time. Um, and I chose this movie, and I asked the two of you to be here to talk to me about it for a couple of reasons. One, I just wanted to make two of my friends watch this movie. Um, and two, we seem to have like different opinions
Hmm.
on what a good movie is and what a fun movie is. And I just absolutely when I thought about this one, I was like, I have to get Nicole and Ryan's take on this movie. So that's the real reason why I shared it with you, and why I asked you to come here and do that. And so I will just start it out with um, I will say that right on the cover it says you're going to need more than 9 lives. Nicole, how many lives did you lose watching this movie?
27.
Not true.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I did not lose any. It's first
How
impressions
about
or
first impressions of the movie? Yep, for sure.
okay. All right. All right. I did not lose any lives watching this movie. It was pretty good. It
Yeah,
it it had some good things. It had some bad things. It's gonna be hard to talk about without giving spoilers because I know you like to do a spoiler-free review.
right.
But it wasn't, in Ryan's words, a complete fucking waste of time. I think it showed some promise. It really did.
Yeah. Um, yeah, no, I can appreciate that. So this movie was basically written and directed in part by Sean Q. King. And you may or may not know his name, but I will tell you that I think both of you have seen one of the projects that he worked on. He was the cinematographer for Victim No More. So if you saw that Friday the 13th fan film, you've seen some of his work previously. And this was one of those things where he wanted to make a movie, and he wanted to make it more like a mid '90s feeling movie, and that's really part of the reason why they decided to do this shot on video. I'm going way off base. Ryan, what was your first impressions of this?
So, I guess spoiler alert for when we do the reviews or the ratings later.
Yeah.
I fucking loved this. Dead on with the like mid 90s, early 90s, because I'm sitting there watching. Of course, you got the shot on video, like you mentioned, but the clothing, like they were wearing, I'm like, this is from Degrassi fucking High. Like this is like the mom jeans, the like the crocheted, like tight crochet knit sweaters. Everything about this screamed. If it wasn't for the fact that in some shots you can see some cars in the background that are clearly like 2020 odds. Even this isn't really a spoiler, but even the one character drives like a beat up fucking Subaru from like 93.
Yes.
I loved that about it. I absolutely loved the feeling because it did. They captured everything. It felt very much like it belonged in those late 80s, early 90s horror movies. Like it, I was like, fuck, I'm watching Splatter University again. Like even the humor and everything about it. Like, yeah, first impression, I absolutely had a blast with this.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, Sean King, so he has, if you check out his IMDb, he has several credits where he's mostly a cinematographer. Like, I didn't recognize a lot of the things that he had done. The only other thing other than Victim No More that I saw that he had done was the Death o' Lantern remake, which I don't know if you're familiar with Chris Seaver, but he did a couple of Death o' Lantern movies, and then of course they remade it. So when they did the remake, I guess Sean King did the cinematography for the remake, which would make sense how he came to know Bob Heckman. So Bob Heckman is Victim No More. Bob Heckman was an executive producer on this. And if you know who Bob Heckman is and you've seen him, then you know he's in the movie. At like 3 or 4 different points in the movie, he shows up. Like when during the documentary thing, when our character Eddie is like trying to get like a spontaneous interview, like, or a comment on the street, and that dude walks out of like the store, and he's like, no, and like tells him to fuck off. You know what I mean? That was Bob. I guess they developed a friendship, and at one point they must have just been talking, and somebody came up with the idea where they're like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we did a movie that basically combined Scream and Stephen King's Sleepwalkers? And they didn't hide it at all.
No.
I mean, you got the Scream elements up front. You got the Sleepwalker elements up front. Like you got the Egyptian theme. You got the cats. And honestly, I feel like this was a very cool marriage of the two ideas. And I was curious what your thoughts were on that.
I enjoyed it. I did. And like you, I got that right up front. And I did. I enjoyed it because I love Sleepwalkers. I mean, Scream was a fantastic movie for the 90s, and Sleepwalkers is just one of those, it's so great, but it makes you feel icky,
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Flowers in the attic.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I got that as soon as I saw the mask. I immediately went, okay. Sleepwalkers, cats has something to do with it immediately.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I did get that impression.
Mhm. One of the things I didn't realize was that the cat uh, scream style mask that they used in this was actually already existing, and they actually had to get permission to use it from someone.
Oh,
Um,
that
yeah,
I assumed they made it.
yeah. I think they came across it somewhere, and they absolutely wanted to use it, and that was kind of like the focal piece of the inspiration for this. That they really wanted to have a killer wearing that mask, and they had to reach out and get permission from the creators of the mask to put it in their film, which of course they
Hmm.
did. You know, the it was so dead on. I mean, like the robe, the hooded robe that the killer was wearing was
Mhm.
very much like Scream. The mask was very much like Scream, except it was a cat. I love the fact that he wasn't running around with a combat knife anymore. He had these cat's claws
Yes.
in order to do the murdering. Um,
I immediately thought Wolverine. That was the first thing that came to my head.
yeah, yeah, Ryan, I didn't get your take.
No, yeah, I agree. Like with what you guys were saying, like it. I don't want to talk about spoilers too much, but yeah,
I'm
like
sorry.
you do get a good marriage between surprisingly between the two franchises. Um, even down to some of the this is a very this is I wouldn't consider this a spoiler. Even down to the actions of the killer at some point, like
Mhm.
after the first kill, there's a small ball of yarn on the floor, and the killer actually starts to kick it around a bit, like a cat.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Uh,
and I don't know if it was intentional, but I can tell you that when I saw it in the theater and that gag happened on screen, like the theater almost erupted with laughter because every single person got it at the same time. It's like, oh my god, it's like a cat. Go ahead.
yeah, no, that's kind of like I was enjoying it,
Mm.
but once that stupid little kick, I was actually it invested me more because I'm like, oh, so maybe this isn't just a straight up Scream clone, like there's clearly some like it's not granted. I mean, you know, the whole like ooh ooh and all that stuff. So there's no people act like cats all the time, but this seemed like a really weird time to just do your kink. uh, so I kind of was like, okay, what's going on here? And of course, you do the usual like you're trying to guess who the killer is, but on top
Mhm.
of it, because we've got and it's on the cover, so I don't think we can spoil that. We've got a mummy in a
Mhm.
Mhm.
sarcophagus, and so you're like, well, how the fuck does a mummy fit into all this?
Right, right,
This does a very good job of homaging, but not being a straight ripoff of Scream,
Right.
um, and vice versa with
Mhm.
Sleepwalkers.
Right. And I don't know what prompted me to think it, but this movie is helping me to develop a theory that in horror movies, one of the worst things that you can do is knit. I swear to God, if you knit in a horror movie, you are going to die.
Bye,
That's
Nicole.
why I crochet.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
started to
good.
stab somebody with a
Oh,
crochet hook and a knitting needle.
good. There you go. Like, because and I was struggling to think of this, and it's like now a lot of my examples are independent movies, but it's like I think about it, it's like no, hold on, like almost every time someone has been knitting in a horror movie, I've watched them die. So I'm gonna have to pay closer attention to this and maybe I think there's something to this.
I think it's because it's a cheap way to make a violent kill.
Yeah.
I think it is too. Um, I mean, I know that we all agree that this was intentionally supposed to look mid '90s, and that for the most part that was very successful. Did you note anything that was out of place that took you right out of that '90s feel?
Like I said, the only thing was like, and I was they were doing such a great job of making it feel 90s. I was actively looking for things to pull me out of it, and that's why I noticed, like I said, in some of the wide shots in the background, you can
Yeah.
see
Mhm.
newer cars. But that's because I was actively looking for them. I think if you were just watching the movie, I don't even know if you'd pick up on that.
Mm, okay. Okay. That's true. I noted one pretty early on, and like I even went back and looked at it again because I wasn't sure that I heard what I thought I heard. Um, our Eddie character, our documentary filmmaker guy,
Mhm.
um, he was talking about his documentary and exploring the murders of Marblehead. That's the town, right? Marblehead. Um, and he said it's going to make forensic files look like Paw Patrol.
Oh,
And I was like, did I hear that right? And I went back and I listened to it again. I was like, Then I Googled when did Paw Patrol hit the air? And it was like
it was like,
2013.
yeah.
And I was like, that sounds like a
Right.
mistake.
The movie is set in the mid '90s, though.
We don't really know that, but I mean, like they do say it on the DVD. So it's like Screamwalkers is a brand new thrilling shot on video analog 90s style slasher. So
Yeah.
they just say 90s style. They don't necessarily say that it takes place in the 90s, but it feels very fucking 90s. I really kind of feel like these folks could like teach a class on how to make a movie on an exceptionally low budget.
Mhm.
One of the things that I picked up on um, when I was listening to their commentary, um, and I hope I heard it correctly, was they did a crowdfunder and they raised about $7,000 to make this movie. I don't know if they got any other sources for money, but if they only got 7 grand to do all this, that's pretty freaking impressive to me.
That's very impressive.
Mhm. So, and they did want to use like
Did
old
they
like
pay? Did they pay the
90s.
actors?
I don't know, maybe they got a lot of new actors for this.
Hmm.
So like
Mhm.
people who really hadn't been in much before, and I know it was a lot of people that they hadn't worked with before. You would think that they had to pay a couple of them at least,
You
because I
think
mean,
just for 7 grand? Like, holy
yeah,
shit, that barely
yeah,
pay for the VHS tapes you'd have to use.
yeah. I mean, they had Sasha Graham in this, and she's like a B movie queen, but she did a bunch of stuff previously, like going back into the '90s and so forth. Um, so, I mean, I imagine some people did get paid to do this, but I imagine a lot of other people did volunteer their time. Um, I don't think that they paid a lot for locations, if they paid for any,
Right.
because, like, you may remember when he's showing them the film documentary and they're sitting in that garage. That was literally somebody's garage who was working on the movie, and they
Yeah.
had like furniture in it that they like pulled out of somebody's garbage like a few days before and like stuck it in the garage. So like they spent like $0 on that. They just shot in the garage.
Yeah.
Um, and this they shot on the street a couple of times, or they found a location, with like the smokestacks in the background. They
Mhm.
just went to a public place and they shot a
Yeah.
scene. You know what I mean? Um,
The
the
classroom, was that like a college? That's how I
ah,
took
Funny
it.
you should ask. And hopefully I'm not like spoiling anything or getting the guy in trouble. But uh, Bob, who I talked about previously, works at a hospital, but it's also a teaching hospital.
Ah,
And the way I understand it, there's a building like on the campus that has like classrooms in it. So they
okay.
they basically just showed up on a Sunday when nobody was there, and they they just went inside and filmed. So I'm like, that's pretty freaking crazy. That's like, to me, that's like guerrilla filming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have express permission to do something, but you go in and do it anyway. So
Yeah, you figure it'll be all right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of respect for that. I mean, that's a good use of resources that you have that basically didn't cost you anything to do it. So
Yeah.
kudos to that. That's pretty awesome. Do you have any real opinions of the killer? way the killer looked, behaviors of the killer, just general thoughts on that. Did it put
I
you in?
didn't see it coming.
Okay,
When the reveal happened, I did not see that coming.
okay, very good. Um,
I
I
got.
found. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I got it half right.
Got it half right.
Yeah, I was gonna say that as far as the killer, like the way they acted. I mean, it was that might be the weakest part of the movie for me.
Okay.
Not that they did anything wrong per se. I just you could really feel the budget constraints with the kills,
Okay.
and for that reason, it just also the runtime too is pretty short,
Mm-hmm.
66 minutes. So it kind of just like with movies like Scream, there's so many great moments like involving chases that amp up. Like the tension is building and building, and we see the killer chasing their potential victim for several minutes. In this movie, it kind of killer pops up, kills, gone. Killer pops up, kills, gone. It's
Right.
very quick.
hmm I did notice that too. There was time. They had the killer act so quickly that it was drawn out in between. Like
Mhm.
it felt like a really long time, and like a big slow burn in between kills, just because he did it so fast. Like they could have made it last a little longer. I think.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah. You're right. The killer was only on screen for like a couple of short minutes, like each
hmm
kill, and then we would get like dramatic scenes with plot development in between, and you could get like these long stretched out periods where it felt like nothing was really happening. Um, but I don't know. Um, I felt like they kept it pretty short and concise, and that there wasn't anything like really slow or dragging with it. I mean, like you just get a sense that it was starting to feel slow, and then immediately something else would happen. So like I felt like they edited this pretty well to where they kind of got a lot of that out of it. Like it didn't drag a lot to me.
Yeah. It did not feel like an Amityville movie. It did not feel like it was 4 hours
No,
when it wasn't. So it was, yeah, that was good.
Well, since we talked about the kills, what did y'all think of the effects?
Um, I thought the blood was a little watery.
Okay.
I thought it was way too watery. Um, the it's hard to talk without spoilers. The one
Well,
kill,
you could do a little bit. I mean,
a little bit okay. When the hot girl, in my opinion,
okay.
um, when he was pulling out thing, it was I was like, okay, that's latex. Like it did not look too real. And when he got to the end, I actually wrote down, did he just pull a testicle out or did she swallow a tennis ball? It was just a big ball at the end of her intestine. And I'm like, what the hell was in her stomach? What did she eat that would cause that?
Um,
yeah,
I,
I'm trying to think of what that was even supposed to be.
I don't know. That's
Like
the thing. It
I
was just
can't.
like a
Yeah,
ball in her intestine.
anatomy wise, it doesn't. Unless
It
it was
doesn't make
supposed to be
sense.
your stomach, but the
No, it
stomach
was like a
ain't shaped
tennis
like it
ball.
that.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
That's
like
why
the
I said
I mean,
testicle.
maybe it was
Like,
her
is
appendix and it was about to burst.
I was just about to say that it might have been appendicitis.
Because the killer, and I'm like, okay, that's a weird looking effect, but whatever. But then the
uh,
killer actively makes a point to step on it.
uh-huh.
yeah. Yeah, he like did a dance on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, what is
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. It was. It, I think it
For
was
a
supposed.
$7,000 budget, it
Yeah.
was not bad considering what
Honestly,
they had to work.
yeah, I think it was supposed to be ridiculous. Because literally, it looked like they were pulling out, pantyhose intestines with a balloon in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but and and if I'm not mistaken, I think I laughed out loud when that happened. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there is another kill in the movie that involves some head trauma, and that one was really good. I really enjoyed that. And the way the blood was
Oh,
coming in front of the
yeah.
camera, like that was
Yeah.
good. That was fun. That's a perfect example when you're dealing with these micro budget movies.
Mhm.
Sometimes less is more.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's okay to admit you don't have the budget to show an intestine rip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I
And,
I got that.
slicing open a stomach and having a bunch of blood come out and maybe just having repeated slashes,
mhm.
that's just as effective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of those things that I wanted to call out. I'm kind of glad you brought that up with the blood over the camera lens shot.
Mhm.
There was quite a few instances of things like that throughout this movie. Whether it was an interesting background where it looked kind of like creep show, or if they superimposed like an eclipse in the sky, which I think they did at one point, um, and doing this effect directly over the camera while the actors are sitting there reacting to supposedly what's happening on screen. That's part of the inventive camera work that was happening here, and it's just interesting stuff like that that I think you know was maybe supposed to be tongue in cheek and be funny, but also like really kept your attention. Like it kept things interesting and fun throughout this.
And that's what I thought too. As soon as when I saw the blood coming down in front of the camera, I immediately went old school creep show, old school Tales from the Crypt. Like I got that feel, and I love that. I absolutely love that.
And I don't know what you thought of the acting in this movie.
It wasn't bad. I'm
I
sorry,
really
Ryan. Go
liked
ahead.
it. No, I was gonna say I really liked it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I thought Eddie was perfect.
he
Like he
was
was
great.
so ridiculous,
He was my
um,
favorite character.
and he played it so well.
He did.
And the emo guy, like the one that feels like he has My Chemical Romance on his iPod shuffle.
Yeah,
Everybody played their part well.
yeah,
The main girl and she does have to do most of the legwork for the movie.
yeah,
Mhm.
There's a couple of scenes I guess where she gets a little melodramatic,
yeah.
but I mean she still manages to carry it really well. I honestly I am if this had been on the shelf in like 1993
Hmm.
next to some of the other like slashers out there, I wouldn't bat an eye. I
Yeah,
wouldn't have known it was
Right.
like well, I guess to be fair, those movies had a bunch of nobodies back then too.
yeah.
But these people did a better job than those nobodies. That's what I was getting at.
I'd say so too. You were talking about Elizabeth Davoli, who played
Mm.
C.J. Wyatt in this. I think this is like her first like major appearance, um, and I was really pleased
Hmm.
with the acting that she put forth. I mean, she played like upset and distraught very well, in my
Mhm.
opinion. So like we got moments on screen where it's like clearly they're overacting and they were trying to do that on purpose, but we
Hmm.
also got like these real moments where it's like you're like, oh, I can see how they could actually do something dramatic. And I really felt like when she came back to her house and found out what happened to her friend, that she her grief and this overwhelming feel of sadness and emotion was very real to me. And I was like, holy shit, like she's got some chops. Um,
I loved
Andy,
Eddie.
yeah, Andy Rao, who
I'm sorry.
played Eddie, he was
He
awesome.
was great.
He
He was
steals the
great.
show. Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
He plays the kind of goofy character, but the scene when he is screaming, he's
Yeah.
Oh
got the
yeah.
camera and he's screaming.
Angry at the other two. Yeah.
That kind of took me aback. Like I was like, "Holy shit, he's a pretty good actor." Like
So
that
he's
scene really was good.
channeling.
Yeah.
And this isn't indicative of what's happening in the scene. So I'm not saying this is a spoiler. I'm just saying the energy that he was channeling, that
Mhm.
zaniness. But like this is kind of scary. Kind of reminded me of Matthew Lillard in Scream.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not
Yeah.
saying the scene is similar. Like, I'm not. This is not a
No, it's not.
spoiler.
No,
Like,
it's
and
not.
it's
Yeah.
not. It's a completely different thing that's happening. It's just that desperation and
Yeah.
Yeah.
like borderline insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That threw me. Yeah, that was really good.
He had a real intensity in that scene where
Mhm.
previously up to that he just seemed like a douchey like game show host. You know what I mean? And I think that was really the intention of his character was to
Yeah.
really kind of come across like that because he was really like performative in everything that he liked, everything that he was doing to interact with his friends. He always had a camera in his hand. You know, he's playing to the camera and trying to engage other people with it. So he had to seem kind of like a douchey game show host. And then when you know the eye of the investigation turns to him, and he manages to get out and confront the two people that he think are part of the problem. Why he's under examination now, like he's really accusatory of them both. You know what I mean? And that came across super well. I mean, you're absolutely right. That was such an intense scene, and he gave so much to that.
Yeah.
And that's what
110%.
made the kill so amazing.
It did. It did.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Glenn McBride as well, the guy that plays Detective Penny.
Yeah.
He was good. I really liked him.
Yeah. I wanted to bring him up.
liked it too.
He's dry, sarcastic. That
Yeah.
running joke with everybody with the sunglasses. And
Yeah.
you could just tell he's getting more and more pissed off with them.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about that earlier today, and I was like, God, why does that look so familiar? And it finally hit me. I was like, they're doing CSI Miami.
They're making fun of CSI
They're
Miami.
they're doing David Caruso jokes.
Yeah.
And because like the beginning of every freaking show, they'd have like a crime, and they'd be investigating it, and they'd be having a conversation. David Caruso's there. He'd make some lame ass dad joke, and they'd put his sunglasses on, and they'd key the music for the show. And I'm like, fuck, this is CSI Miami.
CSI Miami was really popular in 1993.
Absolutely, it was. What'd you think of the cat jokes? Were they good?
They were good. Yeah.
I loved them. I told one to my wife out there, and she was like, no. She's like, just no. I'm like, come on, that was funny. So
and there is that one joke I want to, just for talking about dad jokes, there is that one joke when Eddie he's like, yeah, Eddie R. Reed. And they're like, R like a pirate? And he's like, R like the 18th letter of the alphabet. And I'm like, he pulled that so quick. I'm like, Eddie, how many times have people asked you R like the pirate? Like,
yeah,
you have that joke on standby that you know that R is the 18th. Is it even A, B, C, D, E, F, G?
Mm-hmm.
Have to check the consistency of this. Fact checker.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So they did their homework.
Yeah.
That was hard to do.
He did his research ahead of time. He just threw it out there like that. It's like he planned it. So, so Detective Penny was great. And I loved all the cat jokes, all the dad cat jokes that they had in there. I loved his car. The way I understand it is that they had intended to get a shitty car for this, and the one that they wanted to use, like the person who owned it, like did a bunch of work to it, and like it was no longer like a super shitty car anymore. And they're like, oh man, we were going to use that, for the movie. And so this guy shows up on set. That's his actual car. They're like, dude, your car's a piece of shit. And like, we're not saying that to be mean. Can we use it in the movie? So, and if I remember correctly, the actor Glenn McBride Jr. drove it to the premiere, and people actually went outside to take pictures in front of his car.
Oh my gosh, that's great! That's great.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you guys a question about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just me, or if I was just seeing things at the end when he gets home and he gets out of his car to go into his house.
Mm-hmm.
The armrest looked like a wooden chair handle.
Yeah.
Was that okay? I had
That
to
was a
make sure that wasn't me. It was actually
yeah.
there.
I can remember one of my parents had a car when I was a kid that the middle console wasn't a console. It was two separate armrests side by side so that you could put one up instead of like one could stay down, one could stay up.
Yeah.
I don't know
I love
why.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely looked like wood, like
It
like
looked like a
something that belonged
chair arm.
on a deck chair or something.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah,
screwed into the middle of the car. That's seriously what it looked like. Painted
yeah.
gray. Um, um, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but when I saw it at Creature Feature, um, his car is missing a hubcap.
On
Um,
each side. Yeah.
well, it's only missing one. And if you notice, like from one point of the movie to another point of the movie, the one that's missing the hubcap is in a different place.
That's what I
So
was yeah, I thought it was missing
apparently,
one on each side.
I guess while filming, like either one of them fell off or something like that, or he thought it would be funny, and he's like just like slapped it on, to a different tire and left a different one minus the hubcap. Um, but yeah, the car itself almost became another character in this movie.
Yeah, I thought
And
it was, yeah.
yeah, and I don't even know if they intended to do that, but
It was
um,
great.
I had a lot of fun with that. And that just begs the question: do you guys have any interesting memories of old shitty cars that you used to own?
Oh god.
I've only ever
Oh,
owned two cars in my life, so
Oh, really?
oh wow.
Oh, well, the one of mine that I have my fondest memories of is um, before I got married for the second time. It was after my first marriage, and I was living in an apartment in Gettysburg, and I didn't have a car, and I was like, man, I want to have a car. I want to feel like a human being again, like an adult who can drive himself places. And I picked up this 1984 Ford F-150 from a like a used car lot. This thing was beat to shit. It was a farm truck. It had a dent on every fucking panel that it had. It had rust holes in it. Um, like it actually kind of blew my mind that it ran. Um, and I paid $250 for this
Wow.
uh, 84 F-150 that had like four on the floor and an inline six. And I was like, when I drove that thing around, I was like, this thing is fucking awesome. You know what I mean? And it was the biggest piece of shit you'd ever seen in your life. And
Feel the
I
street
spent,
under your feet.
yeah, almost. I
Oh,
didn't have the rotted out floorboards, but I had some like rotted out fenders. But it was great. I absolutely love that car. Somebody hit something with every corner of that vehicle. But it was great. So,
that's cool. I had it was my first car. I had a 1984 Ford Tempo, and it was blue. I think I paid $1,100 for it, and it stalled in the middle of every intersection. Every time I hit the brakes, the car would stall out. Okay, I'd be sitting there waiting to make a left turn, and it would stall out.
I
Sometimes
love
it
it.
started right back up again, but I needed a
Okay.
new starter. The starter was missing teeth. So when I turned the
Ah,
key, it was like a game of Russian roulette every time. Is it going to start this time? Is it going to start this time? And I would just have to keep doing it. I took my driver's test in that car, and the cop got in, and it wouldn't start. I was nervous to begin with, but then I have this state trooper sitting next to me, looking all serious, and I'm like, "It'll start in a minute. It needs a new starter." That was the worst memory with that car was taking
oh
my
man.
test. Yeah.
That just makes me think of every episode of Pimp My Ride I've ever seen. You know, where these are like the worst cars. You see people getting into their engine compartments, like jumping from this terminal over to here just so they can start their car.
Yep.
That's
That's
great.
exactly what it was.
Ryan, if you've never had that experience, you're missing out.
no. Like I
Yeah.
said, yeah, I've only had I made a mistake. I've had three cars. But like the whole reason for that is I didn't get my driver's license until I was like 26.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
okay.
So my first car I bought it in 2009.
Oh,
Wow.
well, all right.
So yeah, that's
Getting the
why
fancy cars. All
yeah,
right.
so by then like yeah. Because everything is on a 7-year whatever program.
Yep.
I got you.
So yeah, unfortunately, no bad stories.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
That's a good thing.
You know, like they're not good stories when they're happening. They're good stories
is true.
later.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Like,
I can
I
laugh
can't-
about it now.
Yeah, yeah. You know how many times I've had car issues where like I was having the worst day of my life. I'm like, son of a bitch, like the most cursing I've ever done, like in a
Yep.
public place, has been when I was having car problems. You
Yep.
know, yeah. So anyhow, they're funny now, but they weren't then.
Yes.
So how bonkers was the final scene?
I wasn't ready for that. That's why I said I only got it half right.
I wasn't ready for it either. But as soon as I saw what was happening, I immediately went to the
It's all,
previously named movie. I'm trying very hard not to say it. It's very difficult not to give spoilers.
I know.
my reactions were initial. I kind of made several faces. 3. First one was,
Mhm.
and the second one was,
Hmm.
and then the third one was. So yeah, no, that really put like shot the movie up on the pedestal for me, was that finale, because Jesus Christ. And
Yeah.
again, the which is so weird that we had problems with the gore effects,
Mhm.
because the special effects in that finale are surprisingly well done.
Mhm.
They were. I wrote down the makeup in the
Mhm.
final scene was really good. Like
Yeah.
really good. That surprised me that it looked so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it totally was. I assume you're talking about the transformation.
Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That looked awesome. I'm not
That
gonna
did.
lie. I
That
like
really
that a
did.
lot. And we got another one of those like old school effects,
Yeah.
like in the final moments of that scene, we got like a swirling thing just like superimposed on the screen. It looked so
Yeah.
old school. It was like I don't know, like Batman TV series, like
Mhm.
type
Mhm.
on screen
I could
effects. I
hear
mean,
that music.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kind of look like the ending to Monster Squad when everybody's getting sucked up into limbo.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. All right. Well, I think we've said enough on this. I would like it very much if I could get a final rating from you guys on this. Of course, on here I do it out of 5. Um,
Okay.
and now, of course, I'm going to do my final rating, and I'm also going to give it in concessions because that's just my thing. You don't have to do that. But Nicole, what do you think? Out of 5, what do you give it this thing?
Out of 5, on the independent scale, I will give this a 3.0.
Very nice. Very nice. 3.0. I think that's a respectable score.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Do you think you find yourself watching it again at any point?
Probably, mainly 'cause I had a huge crush on the detective. He looked like a very young Lou Gossett Jr. Like he was.
Well, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When he finally got his car started and he looked out and he put the sunglasses on, I'm sure
Yeah.
that's etched in your brain forever.
Yeah. So were the chair handles that was the armrest. That
That's great. Ryan, what do you think?
I did bring concessions. I actually
Woo.
brought Canadian concessions, so I'm
Ah,
gonna make you. Yeah, I'm gonna make you have to search for these. No, I had a blast with this. Like I said, I feel bad, especially with these micro budget movies. Like when I mentioned stuff like I like stuff like I said, like it's a bunch of nobodies. I'm a guy in next to a closet, like shitting on a movie. Like I'm not. I have no right to say anything about anybody. These people are fantastic. Like, and I don't mean that term in a negative way. Is what I'm getting at. Like, these people haven't been found yet, and what they're doing in this movie. If that's any indication, I I hope they they get lucky at some point and get to be in something bigger.
oh yeah.
I had an absolute blast with this. The special effects, like I said, kind of hit or miss, but for the most part, they're a lot of fun. The acting is good. I did not realize that when you said you were going to do a bunch of micro budget movies for your show, I'm like, what the fuck are we going to get into when he asked us to come on? I've been pleasantly surprised every time I've been on
Yeah,
with it. Like these movies
Yeah.
have been a
me
lot of
too.
fun. I'm giving this 4 out of 5, and I'm giving it 1 Glossette peanuts, 1 Glossette raisins, a crispy crunch, and a cherry blossom.
Oh my God. You are going to make me look for that shit. Challenge accepted. Yeah. I mirror a lot of what you were just saying. This was great. I love the whole thing. This was such a fun ride. I had a great time the whole way through it. It felt so 90s. It made me nostalgic for, being in high school in 1996. You know what I mean? Like I almost found myself wishing that had been my experience in that time of my life and not the one that I actually had. And
Hope
and we're talking about
you and
two
your
movies.
you'd rather you and your friends got murdered by a
Yes,
cat killer?
absolutely. Of
Okay.
course.
Cool.
And we're talking about two movies that were like super popular. I'd seen them both, and I saw, I think, both those movies in the theater. I mean, at that time, and Sleepwalkers. I still go back and watch that to laugh my ass off. So it's like this was a fantastic combination of both. What?
I just realized it's in the fucking title.
Yes. Yeah. Both movies. Right there.
Wow. Okay. Sorry. I was just looking at the IMDb and it just like epiphany.
That's okay. So I would recommend people watch this, especially if you have any memories of that time period yourself. I just found out that this did go to streaming where you can actually view it for free. There is an app called Fawsome, Fawsome. If you download the app, you should be able to find this movie and watch it yourself. But I would also encourage you to check out 3PD Films on YouTube. I'm going to try to put links in the description of this video, because everything that they're working on, it's all under that 3PD name. So they do have a YouTube channel. Check it out on IMDb. Rate the movie if you actually see it. Help these guys out. So I myself am going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I'm actually a little lower than you, Ryan, and I had a hell of a good time with this movie. This. Yeah. I'm going to give this nachos. Gonna do an iced tea, Sour Patch Kids, and half a box of Junior Mints. Only half because they don't go very well with Sour Patch Kids. So there you have it. 3.5 out of 5. Nice job. Love this thing. And I just have to say, you don't need a big budget to make a badass movie. Cut.